What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for joining. It is a pleasure to have you here after Game 7. And I know it was a tough loss. We're going to get into it in just a minute. We're not going to recap it because I don't really want to relive it either. But we are going to talk about where we go from here, how I feel about the pulling in Atlanta again and things like that, what I've seen on social media, and just kind of how I feel about this overall season and whether or not I think last night was a failure. So, I turned my phone off after last night because I knew I was going to have messages from fans that were not Braves fans, and also messages from Braves fans, just upset, and I get being upset. However, to just forget what kind of season we had, or even what kind of series we had, what kind of postseason we had, is a bit too far because this is a team who, despite all the odds, you have guys opting out at the beginning of the season. Felix Hernandez, your starting rotation is in shambles by midseason. Not to mention, we didn't even know that we were going to have a season this year until 3 months ago. So after all of that, they made it to an NLCS. Okay, go back to when Mike Soroka went down. Okay, go back to when Mike Soroka went down and tell me that you thought we would make it to an NLCS. Because there are probably very few of you, and I am not included in that short list, that thought that we would make it to an NLCS and take the Dodgers to Game 7. I did not think at the beginning of the postseason that we would beat the Dodgers, and then we got a 3-1 lead on them. And yeah, it sucks that we lost, but do I think we choked? No, I don't have that. I don't have that philosophy because, to me, we had two starting pitchers going into that series. Okay, Max Fried, Ian Anderson. After that, it was kind of a flip of a coin as to who was going to perform. Obviously, Bryce Wilson had a great day on the mound. A.J. Minter came in for 3 excellent innings, but it just wasn't meant to be. And the reason I'm telling you this, the reason that I'm coming to you with this tonight is because of what I've seen on social media. I know you've seen it on Twitter, on Facebook, on whatever you're on. I know you've seen what I'm talking about. The Atlanta choked. I hate being a Braves fan, and, expletives included. I know the way we're feeling right now. With that said, this Facebook post I came across earlier, somebody sent it to me. I thought I'd read it because it kind of it sums up exactly how I feel about this whole scenario with Game 7 last night. And it's by Nathan Cothran. I'll give him credit, Nathan Cothran. It really does amaze me to see the hate being posted about the Braves this morning. I get it, we had a 3-1 lead. You can say choke or whatever, but the reality is we started basically 7 games with 3 rookie starters and relievers. We lost a guy who was runner-up for Player of the Month in September and replaced him with a rookie in Game 1. That guy being Adam Duvall, by the way. We had very little playoff experience going up against a team filled with MVPs, Cy Young Award winners, and about $100 million more in team payroll. I don't know if you guys realize that. The Dodgers are spending the money to win a World Series. Okay, not to say that the Braves aren't doing the right things to win a World Series, but they have $100 million more in payroll. So just take that into consideration. We didn't get a day off in 7 games for the first time in history in a playoff series. And we had a pitching staff with only 2 pitchers. And that completely makes sense. The Dodgers were 43-17 through 60 games this year. They don't lose with regularity. The field wasn't equal. It was amazing the effort we got out of some of our players. Again, I'm disappointed that we couldn't get the last W, as am I. But to say that we've been Atlanted or whatever is a really slap in the face to what these guys accomplished. It really was an amazing run, and we need to appreciate what this team did. And I just thought I'd read that because that's exactly how I feel. And, I understand, being an Atlanta fan just in general, the Falcons. Hey, they won this past week, but the Falcons, the Georgia Bulldogs, I understand, that we get to a point where we're finally up there with everybody else, and then we, quote-unquote, choke. That is not what the Braves are doing right now. That is not where they're at. They are on the rise. They are defying the odds. They are absolutely they're doing more than what anybody would think. Go look at how many experts thought the Braves would be in the NLCS at the beginning of the year. And then go look at how many experts thought the Braves would be in the NLCS after Mike Soroka went down, after Felix Hernandez opted out, after Mike Voltunevich and Sean Newcomb didn't work out. Go look at those and tell me how many of them thought that they would do that. Tell me how many of you guys thought Marcell Ozuna would have the year he had, or that A.J. Minter would be a reliever that we could count on this year, or a reliever that we could count on for 3 innings in the postseason. I bet none of you could have told me that in 2019. I couldn't have told you that in 2019. So to sit here and be mad, I get we're mad. I wanted to go to a World Series as much as anybody. But to sit here and just ignore what they've done this year because they didn't make it to a World Series and they blew a 3-1 lead. They blew a 3-1 lead with pitching that was limited. And it's not because of lack of talent. It's because of lack of guys that we didn't have. Mike Soroka, Felix Hernandez. We didn't have those guys. And it's all, a lot of it is because of the world we're living in. I mentioned this earlier, but we almost did not have a baseball season this year. And I would much rather go through what we went through this year, the season we had, and see guys like Marcell Ozuna perform. Freddie Freeman's likely going to win the MVP. To see those kind of moments, then wonder what would have happened had we had a 2020 season. And yes, we lost to the Dodgers. I understand your frustration, but you've got to understand that we are on the rise. The Dodgers' time, in my opinion, may not be coming to an end. I think they'll be a competitor for the Braves for years to come. But the Braves are getting right up there with them, and they proved it. To be honest with you, I told somebody at the beginning of the series, whoever wins the NLCS, in my opinion, will probably win the World Series. I think they are the best two competitors. I think whoever left that series had the momentum because they faced a tougher competitor. All respect to the Astros, they are not what the Braves or the Dodgers are. And all respect to the Rays, I think they're a great team. I think they're built as a great team. But they didn't have the same level of competition in that series. So that's just my opinion. I know that some of you are mad. I'm still mad. I get it. I'd be lying to you if I told you that last night I didn't go to bed angry or that I didn't yell at the TV. I understand that. But you got to understand this team is here to stay. This is not a one and done, like a lot of other sports are. The Falcons haven't made it back to a Super Bowl. I'll bet money right now that the Braves make it back to an NLCS in the next couple of years, if not next year. Okay? So what's next for the Braves? Off season, they got to make some deals happen, whether that be for starting pitching or whether or not they believe in what they have returning in starting pitching. Aside from that, they got to re-sign Freddie Freeman. His deal ends at the end of next year, and personally, I would like to go ahead and get that out of the way, and I'm sure that will happen. Other than that, Marcell Ozuna, does he come back or do we try other alternatives? I think that the Braves have plenty of potential to compete for years to come. With that said, I understand your disappointment. I'm going to say that a lot in this video. I understand your disappointment. But to just discredit what the Braves have done this year is a shame. And it's not fair. Here's why I feel differently. Freddie Freeman was interviewed after last year's loss to the Cardinals in Game 5 and after this year's loss to the Dodgers. And the difference in those interviews are staggering. Obviously it's a much different scenario. You had a much closer game in a Game 7. But they asked Freddie Freeman about the loss, and he said that without a doubt, everybody on that team gave everything they had left in the tank. And it's true. A.J. Minter gave up a big homer last night, but he pitched 3 innings for the first time in his major league career, 2 days prior? It's not fair to these guys to just discredit that. And I'm going to get into some of you guys' comments in a minute, but I just wanted to get that off my chest. I've seen it a lot. I gave you a day to digest everything, and I wanted to get that out there. I'm proud of this team. I'm proud of what they've accomplished. I've covered them since spring training at the beginning of the year. I am more than pleased with what they did because how many of you guys weren't sure that they were going to win a division title? And we made it to a National League Championship Series, and we competed, and we made it to a Game 7 against arguably the best team in baseball. And if you ask me right now, if you asked any of the experts on TBS, Fox Sports, whatever the case may be, they would tell you the best team in baseball is the Dodgers. And we competed right there with them. And it's a shame that it didn't end the way we wanted. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. So let's get into it. Was I the only one that cried? Yes, you were. Many tragedies that affected our team. The fact we went to Game 7 of the NLCS against the most expensive and stacked team with almost no injuries, I am so proud. Can only go up from here. I completely agree with that. That's kind of what I'm getting at right now. You're competing with a team that's got $100 million more in payrolls. They're stacked in pitching. David Price is in the minors right now over there in LA. So just keep that in mind. It was an exciting season. Again, I hate that it ended the way it did. Look, I was at Game 3 of the NLCS, so if anybody can be upset, it's me. But you got to have faith in these young guys. You got Max Fried, who was in the leading the Cy Young conversation for much of the year. Again, Freddie Freeman with the MVP season. Marcell Ozuna, I mean, he had 2/3 of the Triple Crown at the end of the season. Adam Duvall popped off. Hopefully he'll be back next year. Pache coming in the postseason and getting postseason experience, even though it was with the loss of Duvall, that experience is invaluable. So to sit here and you have to weigh it all. Would you rather us not have made it to the postseason, not have competed in the NLCS? I would say no. Thanks for the fun, exciting season, man. This team has a great future ahead of them. As a lifelong fan of the Atlanta Braves, can't wait until the next season. Yeah, guys, I appreciate that. I come in here and I give you day-to-day recaps, whether it be sad or whether it be, a happy day. I try to give you the best recap I can give you and the most level-headed approach I can. Not a great night last night. We all knew it was going to end at some point. Sadly, it was last night. Mookie Betts seriously saved their team. Yeah, I agree. In my opinion, he's the MVP of that series for the Dodgers because they definitely would not have won if it weren't for several of the plays. Yeah, Mookie Betts had a great defensive series. Offensively, he struggled. That's kind of why Corey Seager ended up walking away with that. I mean, 5 homers in the postseason. The guy's a stud, and he got hot at the right time. So Mookie Betts, they got their money's worth. They paid a lot of money for Mookie. He's a big part of that $100 million I've mentioned a couple times. So at the end of the day, they got what they paid for. I don't know how long it's going to last, but they got what they paid for, and he did. I believe he robbed Freddie of a homer last night. Marcell Ozuna was close to a homer. There were a lot of plays that Mookie made. The one that sticks with me, that is going to stick with me for years to come, is the one where Marcell Ozuna didn't tag up on third and kind of, he got it in and got him out, one way or another. So, yeah, it's disappointing. And Mookie Betts is a great player. If you ask me right now, I think the Dodgers win the World Series. I kind of, I made a bracket before the postseason ever began, and I said that on the National League side, I was pretty correct. There was a couple things I missed, but at the end of the day, I wish it would have been the Braves. I do, but I did not think the Braves would beat the Dodgers, and they proved me wrong because there was a significant chance that they could. So just keep that in mind. Pitchers and catchers report February 19th. Yeah, it's going to feel like a short off season this year. It's going to feel very short because last year's was so long. We had that little break for spring training, and then we had spring training 2.0, but last year's off season was so long. This year it's going to be fairly quickly. What is that, like 5 months? Yeah, 5 months. So it's not going to be long, but I'm excited for it. I will be at spring training, make no mistake about it. We have a great financial team and Truist helps. Yeah, but the difference is we're able to compete with the Dodgers with $100 million less. And we can spend more money next year and get the pieces we need. Obviously, we're missing some right now. We did great in the 1 and 2, but we started getting tired, I guess. I don't think it was that. I think the postseason is very hard. I think, these guys, the Dodgers are good. They are good. And if you don't think so, you're not a baseball fan. You have not been watching. They are a very good team. They can get hot at the right time. They can get hot at, the most unfortunate time for the other team. But at the end of the day, they are spending $100 million more. The financial team is great. And the GM is great, more importantly. Alex Anthopoulos is able to do things with less money that blows a lot of people away in Major League Baseball. He got Donaldson last year on, $23 million. Ozuna this year on $18 million. And they had, frankly, career turnaround year for Donaldson. And, of course, for Marcell Ozuna this year, he's got his pick wherever he wants to go. But he also helped the Braves out while he was here. So he's going to get paid. Hopefully it's by the Braves. Snit said he's already excited for next year, and I am too. I'm excited for next year, the year after that, maybe the next 5-10 years. I'm very excited. This team's going to be good. They're going to be in the conversation for years to come. There's too many exciting players. There's too many consistent players and guys like Freddie Freeman. The guys that can really carry a team offensively. I think Austin Riley's a guy that is going to pop off in the next few years. Christian Pache, we saw him this postseason. I think he's shown that he's worth every bit of the hype he's gotten. He had a homer in the postseason. I know it's not talked about because it was in that 15-3 loss, but he did hit a homer this postseason, and that is not an easy thing to do for someone his age. And he has carried himself well. He's carried himself as a veteran. Hopefully that will continue as his career develops. But I am very excited. I completely agree with you. Specifically, the All-Star game next year, yes, sir. I'm going to do my best to be there and at the Home Run Derby, but we'll see how the funds are looking. But I'm very excited for that too. Maybe a World Series, some World Series games will be in Atlanta that year too, and we'll have a heck of a 2021. I appreciate it, Bash Brothers. They blew a 3-1 lead to money. That's why I hate the Dodgers. Well, you can hate the Yankees too, for that matter. I will be irritated with the Dodgers until spring training starts. Fair enough. I'm proud and almost satisfied with my Braves this year. I was satisfied, frankly, at the end of the regular season. And I know you're gonna look at me crazy. You're gonna say what? I was satisfied because this year they have been through ups and downs, and this conversation lately that really aggravates me is the fire snit conversation, because I think it is so uneducated. I think it is so irrational to fire a guy who's been with your organization for 40 years because he couldn't win a World Series this year. Is that really what we're going to get at? When the dude lost his ace, he lost Acuna for 2 or 3 weeks, he lost Albies for a couple of months, lost Cole Hamels, lost Felix Hernandez, and he dealt with the global pandemic's effect on his team. And you're going to fire that guy? Yeah, no thank you. I'm not even gonna encourage that. But I am satisfied with how they did this regular season. I'm satisfied that they made it through the Reds. That's something that gets forgotten about. Everybody was worried about the Reds. I was worried about the Reds in that 3-game series because anything can happen, and they got Trevor Bauer and Luis Castillo. I know. And we're going up with Max Fried and Ian Anderson, who's never seen a postseason before. That was the talking point. Then we go face the Marlins, who are a sneaky team who can play against anybody. Small ball is their game. They can score against anybody. And then we beat them. And then we go to the Dodgers, and everybody thought it was going to be a 5-game series with the Dodgers on top 4-1. And then we take them to a Game 7. And you'd be lying to yourself if you didn't think we stressed out the Dodgers. Because I guarantee you, yeah, they won, but they were worried. And they're going to be worried next year too. But that's how I feel about it. I have a good feeling about next year, as you should. The Rays have the 28th highest payroll, or 3rd lowest. That's a good point. You don't have to spend money to win games. You don't. Smart money, a lot of the time, is the best way to go. Look at what the Braves do. Because they go out and they get guys like Shane Green, guys that aren't the Aroldis Chapmans of the world, but can do almost as well as them. But they have 5 or 6 of those pieces. And you go to the Yankees, and yeah, they're spending money out the wazoo because they have it. But guys, teams like the Braves can't do that. Teams like the Rays can't do that. And yet, they're 2 of the 4 finalists for the World Series this year. So, at the end of the day, who would you rather be? Astros did nothing for their effort. They just wanted a trophy with no effort. Well, the Astros are an interesting case. The Astros are an interesting case because, obviously the scandal at the beginning of this year, and that was sort of the biggest talking point going into spring training. I don't really want to comment on that, but at the same time, those guys got hot at the right time. They're not cheating at the moment. They weren't cheating in this past series, as far as we know. You got to give them credit there, as much as it might put a bad taste in your mouth. It is, to me, I didn't want them to go to a World Series. I didn't think they'd earned it. Just morally, I didn't think they'd earned it. But at the same time, at the end of the day, it matters when you show up. The Dodgers proved it, and the Astros did too. I wouldn't say no effort, because Carlos Correa is mashing right now, or he was mashing until the end of his season. But at the end of the day, I agree with you to some degree. Trevor Bauer, yeah. Me too, man. I would love Trevor Bauer to come to Atlanta. I think he would fit in a way. He always he brings some excitement with him. He brings some strangeness to him as well. But I would personally love it. I'd get a lot of behind the scenes coverage in his vlogs of the Braves, and I would love to watch those. So I would like to see Trevor Bauer in Atlanta. I know that he had some controversy with Acuna a few weeks ago, and talking points on the media. I know, but I would personally love to see Trevor Bauer in Atlanta. All the young guys, Anderson, Pache, Wright, even Acuna, are only going to get better. Yeah, Tyler Stone, I hear you. Ian Anderson has been a stud. I don't know how he can get better, but he's probably going to with more experience. Pache hopefully will become a little bit more proficient at the plate and can get a little bit more oriented to the majors. But he's had a lot of hype around him for a long time. I've been excited about his arrival for a long time. And it was mainly in the postseason this year. He had more bats in the postseason, I think, than he did the regular season. So that is the scenario. Kyle Wright, you mentioned Kyle Wright. Everybody's talking about what Kyle Wright did in Game 3, the 15-3 loss. But keep in mind, Tom Glavine had a very similar appearance in the 92 NLCS, and the next night was actually Sid Bream's slide. So, and Tom Glavine, by the way, went on to go in the Hall of Fame in 2014. So, at the end of the day, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but you can't sell out on him yet. He's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of good stuff. He showed it down the stretch this year and early on in this postseason against the Marlins. So, yes, he can be that guy, but he's got to get more consistent. Although I think we need to get rid of Will Smith. Yeah, I don't think that's fair. Will Smith had a rough year. We signed him for 3 to 4 years. I think it was 4. Jesus, I do think it was 4. I don't think we get rid of him. I think we're paying him too much money to trade him. He's a guy that we can trust in a way. One, he's a experienced veteran reliever, and he's a guy that could close for a lot of teams. He's not doing it for the Braves because of his struggles this year. But keep in mind, that guy is good. Go back and watch his highlights from 2018. He had COVID at the beginning of this year. Okay, he had COVID. Okay, and he was out for like half the season. He came in, he struggled, but at the end of the day, what did we expect? The guy hadn't pitched all year, and he's one of those guys that seems to be, if he pitches every day, he will be consistent. If he doesn't, then he won't be consistent. And that's just kind of what you seem to get out of Will Smith. I don't think we get rid of him. Obviously, if he has a year like he had this year, maybe they have those conversations next year. But I don't think it's realistic to consider getting rid of Will Smith. And and moving on, Tyler Duncan, I do think that there is a great possibility that we re-sign Marcell Ozuna, mainly because of the interest he brings. 2/3 of the Triple Crown. I know it was a shortened season, and you can pull up all the asterisks you want. 2/3 of the Triple Crown. He had a great year. Fundamentally a great year. He carried the offense on many occasions. I wish he could have done it a little bit more in the postseason, but he carried the offense throughout the regular season. He's good to have around guys like Acuna and Albies who seem to look up to him and enjoy being around him. And, this whole thing is from Marcell Ozuna. Taking the selfies in the dugout, Marcell Ozuna. He brings the excitement to the dugout, and that's something that I think we lacked in this series with the Dodgers. We didn't have a ton of excitement. There were moments, but it wasn't continuous a lot of the time. And I think that relies on Marcell Ozuna. So, yeah, I think it is realistic that we do. I think it's realistic that we don't. I think it's I don't know that the Braves, I said this early in the season, I got kind of blacklisted in a way. I don't think the Braves are going to have the best offer for Marcell Ozuna, but he's not money hungry. He mentioned this the other day. He turned down like a 4 or 5 year deal to the Reds for a 1 year deal with the Braves to prove himself. So he's not money hungry. With that said, that might be different after the year he had this year. He might want the biggest paycheck possible. But he also might want to come to the Braves and win a World Series next year. So, do I think it's realistic? Absolutely. What Braves have we seen the last of? It wouldn't surprise me if we have seen the last of Ender Inciarte, the last of Nick Markakis, and guys to that level. I think, obviously, your guys like Acuna, Dansby, Ozzie Albies, Freddie Freeman, those guys are... Darno, he's going to be here next year. Tyler Flowers is a guy that I think won't be. His contract ends at the end of this year, so I don't think he will return next year. I don't think we need him. I think a guy like William Contreras will come up, and then once Darno finishes his time with the Braves, at least his contract, they will decide on whether or not Shea Langoliers will take his role, or if they want to re-sign Darno and trade Shea Langoliers. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that's the option they're going to have. Tyler Flowers was given a 2-year deal, I think, because they knew of William Contreras and when he was going to be ready. And they also know when Shea Langoliers is going to be ready, and they can make that decision based on what they see on the field by d'Arnaud. But I do think Tyler Flowers is gone. I think Ender Inciarte has lost a spot in the outfield. Nick Markakis could be on the way out. I would not like that. If the DH is if the DH is not around next year in the National League, I would like Nick off the bench. But I don't know if that's really going to happen. We're going to have to wait and see on that. But it is an interesting topic. I appreciate the question. Hey, most people said we were going to lose to the Reds in the first round, but we proved that we are World Series contenders. Completely agree there, Seth Ranks. Completely agree. Most of my friends were scared of the Reds. That was the common conception was, man, I'm scared of Trevor Bauer. As you should be. The guy's a Cy Young winner this year, more than likely. I completely understand that. But the Braves proved themselves. So if you're a Braves fan, you should have faith going forward. And if you don't, have faith going forward. You heard it from here first. Have faith going forward. All week long, I'm having to tell people we had a 3-1 lead, and obviously it's a moot point now, but we had a 3-1 lead, and I'm having to tell people, have faith in your team. Have faith in your team, guys. This team has proven itself all year. I know it didn't end well, but you got to have faith in that team. A team that's proved itself up and down this year. Obviously, it didn't end the way we wanted, but you got to have faith. Would you consider a good strategy to not trade for starting pitching and let our young pitchers mature, reinforcing only bullpen and or bats? Bullpen doesn't need any help. You just bring back whoever you had this year and maybe a couple moving pieces, but nothing significant. Bats, I think you got to bring Marcelo Zuna back if you want to do that. I think you got to bring Adam Duvall back if you want to do that. I think there could be a move for starting pitching, but you also got, Cole Hamels is gone, so there's one. You got to fill that role. Mike Soroka could be Mike Soroka, is coming back halfway through the year, probably next year. So that's a guy you don't have to worry about necessarily, if you can make it to that point and be in contention. But at the same time, there might be a move to be made. If you can get Trevor Bauer on a 1-year deal, why not do it? That's kind of the way I feel about it. I think that's a management decision. That's not a Tyler Redmond decision, unfortunately. Are you still going to be posting in the offseason? I'm really glad you asked that. Yes, I'm going to still be posting in the offseason. I have a Chief Nakahoma interview that will probably be within the next 2 weeks. I'm going to chop it up and put it out there for you guys. It's going to take me some time. I want to make sure it's good. If you don't know who Chief Nakahoma is, he is the mascot for the Braves. He actually lived in that teepee at Fulton County Stadium back in the day. He is a friend of mine, and he agreed to do an interview with me, so I'll update you on how he's doing. He was a guy that met Hank Aaron at home plate after 7-15. So he has a lot of stories to tell about Hank, about Phil Necro, about Dale Murphy, and he'll tell you about it in the interview. So that's coming up soon. We'll cover winter meetings. We'll cover spring training, of course, things like that. We may move towards a full MLB approach in the off season and then circle back to the Braves for the regular season. But we'll see. I am looking forward to it, though. Thank you for asking, though. Reds were a cake to beat. No, they weren't. Bauer took us to 13 innings in Game 1, and that Game 1 was pivotal. So no, they weren't a cake to beat. They were a good team. Don't let the 2-0 don't let the 2-0 series fool you. Yeah, they were scoreless, but they weren't a cake to beat. There were a lot of sticky situations that the Braves were in. Reviewing our postseason stats, I think Acuna did not have a great performance this series. Yeah, I'd agree with that. He was very quiet. d'Arnaud was kind of quiet, especially after that series with the Marlins he had. But I agree with Acuna. I said in Game 7, all right, this is your opportunity. Let's see it, Acuna, and it just wasn't there. I think he might. Snicker said he thought that he was just trying to do too much, and I think that might be the case. But at the end of the day, I don't know. We're not inside the clubhouse. We're not his teammates. We don't know. And I think it's real easy to pick somebody for a 7-game series and go, you didn't perform up to par. But I don't think that's fair to him. Braves did very well considering the predicted outcome of the series. I'm a Dodgers fan, and I was on the edge of my seat the whole series. Braves are debatably better than us. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you, because I've had to convince Braves fans of that this past week. I'm friends with a few Dodgers fans myself. They were talking about they're not the Dodger fans that would aggravate you. They're more level-headed than that, much like yourself. They're Jack Vane. But the overall consensus was If you're a Dodgers fan, you're worried about the Braves. If you're a Braves fan, you're worried about the Dodgers. And that's exactly where I want the Dodgers and Braves to be, competitors in the National League. I don't hate the Dodgers. I don't. I would have liked to have beaten them if I'm the Braves, obviously. And, of course, I cover the Braves, so I would have liked the Braves to beat them. But at the same time, they're a good team. And I do appreciate your comment. Uh, Hang on. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to catch up. Do you think that Ozuna will get re-signed and we sign a veteran starting pitcher? Anthopoulos does not usually sign people to big deals. He signs people to big one-year deals, and I think Trevor Bauer fits that. I think Ozuna has integrated himself into the Braves situation. Don't fool yourself. I think the Braves probably offered Josh Donaldson more than a one-year deal, just probably not at the level he was looking for, and he eventually got that elsewhere. So that's kind of where I'm at with the Ozuna deal. I think it's up to uh, whether or not the Braves feel they have a necessity for him going forward. They have a lot of guys in the minors. If they can get him to a 2-year deal, that might be a factor as opposed to like a 4-year deal. But again, that's a management decision. Thank you, Tyler. Please stop the fire snit comments. Yeah, it's a tired old saying, and they've been saying it for 3 years every time the Braves end up losing in the postseason. But you got to remember, this team gets better and better and better and better and better, and I think that's going to be a trend that continues. Do you think we make another deep postseason run without great career years from Ozuna and d'Arnaud? I think we certainly need those guys, but d'Arnaud is so impactful behind the plate. Ozuna's got more years in him, but d'Arnaud is more impactful behind the plate. I mean, think about how many times you heard a starting pitcher this past week say that 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 they didn't shake off Travis d'Arnaud not one time. That makes a difference, and I think that's probably a big factor into why Kyle Wright was so successful versus the Marlins, why AJ Minter was successful through 3 innings, why Ian Anderson was so successful this postseason, Max Fried as well, and Bryce Wilson, of course, those 6 innings he pitched. d'Arnaud's a huge factor in that. There's a guy behind the plate too. It's not just the guy on the mound. So I look to have d'Arnaud back for another year. I think he's better behind the plate than Tyler Flowers, and it's no disrespect to Tyler Flowers, but I do think he's better behind the plate. I love Markakis as a regular season player, not much in the playoffs. But Markakis is a guy, if you're in the 8th inning and he comes off the bench, you're confident in his ability, no matter what the situation is. He's got ice water in his veins in a way. I don't know that any stage is too big for him. I know he struggled this year, but he was also facing Walker Buehler and guys that had high velocity, and Urias. Nobody on the Braves could hit Urias, it felt like. So I don't blame Markakis necessarily. It wasn't his series, but hopefully it'll be better going forward. What about Alex Jackson? I think Alex Jackson is not a guy that the Braves are counting on for the future. And what I mean by that, and that might come back to bite me, but I think Alex Jackson could be a trade piece. We saw a lot of him this year. I think he could be, kind of getting exposed to other teams. But I view William Contreras and Shea Langeliers as your next 2 guys. That's what my view is. My single solitary view. It's not anything I've heard. It's no insider. That is me. Alex Jackson's a good player. I think he had a couple, big hits this year. But I don't view it that way. Am I the only one that thinks it is a perfect time for the Braves to buy low on Marcus Stroman? He seems like a younger Dallas Keuchel to me. His market value has never been this low since he opted out. Maybe that could happen. I think that's off-season talk. I will be doing these live streams during the off-season, so we'll talk about it when things happen. But I don't want to speculate on what could happen and get you guys all excited, and then nothing happen. Because that seems to be how it goes. Every time I do a video, hey, Lance Lynn might be coming to the Braves. It didn't happen. So I don't know. I think it's, what about Braden Shoemaker and Kyle Muller? Kyle Muller's the guy that caught my attention earlier this year. I think he's a guy that could be not the next Ian Anderson, but something to that form. But he's probably going to need some time to develop. What's up, Forever LO Sports Atlanta? Is Bryce Ball debuting next season? I think he's got 1 more year, which may affect whether or not the Braves go get Marcell Ozuna for next year. But, I think Bryce Ball's got another year. One of the three catchers we have coming up has to be a trade piece. I think it's Alex Jackson. Thank you for that, Stellar. I think this year was a great year. Faced lots of challenges, but we surprisingly overcame these obstacles each year. We are getting better. We have a great team, great coaches, and great players. All around, I completely agree. Things that get overlooked. Think about how good our coaching staff really is. Obviously, you got Brian Snitker at the helm, but Ron Washington, Sal Fasano, on any other given year, Eric Young, there's a ton of guys. Kevin Seitzer, you can go to Rick Kranitz, whoever. They've been really good for the Braves. And I think that's a big reason to their success. So thanks for that. Am I the only one that thinks Riley needs to spend the offseason learning how to also hit for contact instead of always trying to rip the cover off the wall? He did get a few base hits. Let's give him some credit here. He did get a few base hits this postseason, some big ones. I believe he knocked in a run in one of the games this past series. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know he did that earlier on, and it was a single to the right side. So I get what you're saying, but I think he had a base hit in Game 7. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he had a base hit in Game 7. I want Bauer so bad. Did you see Bauer's Twitter post talking about how he was a Braves fan as a kid? I did not, but that interests me. He did say in one of his vlogs that he loves Truist Park. It's one of his favorite parks to play in. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, I would like Bauer. We'll have to wait and see, though. Our starting pitching will be amazing. Imagine Soroka, Fried, Anderson, Muller, and Davidson in about 3 years. Yep. Same exact format of the 90s Braves. And yeah, that was only one World Series, but it was a World Series. Just throwing that out there. Let's talk about draft picks. Thoughts on Spencer Torkelson? I don't know. I haven't really thought much about that. There's been a lot going on lately. I'll get back to you on that, though. What the heck happened to the Red Sox series, Riley? He was hitting fastballs like it was nothing last season. Now he can't even catch up to one. The Red Sox series, Riley? He was facing the Red Sox. No disrespect, but he was facing the Red Sox. That's what happened to Red Sox series, Riley. But now he's facing the Dodgers, who are a really good team and who have every knowledge of this guy and how he hits, and he's a young hitter. I think that's a pretty simple one, but I understand what you're saying. I thought that about the fastball as well. I think he's so focused on hitting his slider that sometimes he misses that fastball. Bauer talked about how he went to a Braves game as a kid with his dad and even made a homemade tomahawk in a long tweet. Well, then he supports the chop, and I like him already. I got to get out of here in a minute, guys, but sorry, just a random question. Oh, no problem. I'm going to get out of here, guys, in just a second, so if you have a question, get it in. I got a late day tomorrow, so I'm going to try to get out of here and get some sleep. But I appreciate you guys hopping in, and again, I'm just going to restate this before I go. Have faith in Atlanta. Have faith in this team. Have faith in what the Braves have done and what they will continue to do. And have faith in one, Alex Anthopoulos, Brian Snitker. It is not time to fire Snit. He is not Dan Quinn. A lot of these guys that are saying fire Snit are Atlanta Falcons fans that are wanting to get on that bandwagon and get all these coaches out of here and rebuild. It is not time to rebuild. You're crazy if you think that. This is just the beginning for the Braves. So that's how I feel about it. I'm going to get out of here. Again, I appreciate you guys watching. While you're here, like this video, get it out to as many Braves fans as possible. Subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell for notifications so you can stay up to date with everything going on with your Braves, with MLB during the offseason, and everything that I'm up to. Chief Nakahoma's interview, all that good stuff. I'll probably be interviewing some other Braves throughout this offseason. So again, to see all of that, you need to like this video. Subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell for notifications so you can stay updated, and I do appreciate it. But I'm going to get out of here, guys. Again, have faith in your Braves. Chop on, and I'll see you later.